The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, this was a fight that took place this past Friday, and I don't know if anybody made a video about this fight, in the YouTube boxing community. So if nobody has, then let me be the first and let me be the only. This fight took place on the ShoBox card this past Friday. And it was the co-main event. And this was the fight that really caught my attention. Not the main event, but the co-main event. And the co-main event on this ShoBox card in particular was a welterweight fight between 22-year-old welterweight prospect Janelson Figueroa, Boca Chica. He's a guy that a lot of people are some people are high on in boxing. I've seen him fight a couple times against Mark Reyes Jr. I thought he was solid, but I didn't think he was like anything too crazy. But he's a solid guy, solid guy. And I tuned into this fight with great interest because, I wanted to see what improvements he's made as a fighter, right? So Janelson Figueroa was taking on a fighter that I never heard of in my life prior to this fight. A fighter by the name of Shinard from Brooklyn, New York. Now, they were talking Shinard up a lot. The announcers were talking up Shinard a lot. Watching his body language in the locker room, he struck me as a kind of a confident guy. And then a quick, just look at his box rec, he had a lot of knockouts. So I said, the guy could probably punch a little bit. He's young. He looks pretty confident. He'll probably come to fight, and it should be a good fight. And if Figueroa is any good, the way they say he is, he'll find a way to beat a guy like this, right? So it was an absolutely excellent fight. Shinard showed a lot in this fight. I mean, a lot. He showed a really good jab, a steak knife sharp straight right hand. He did a great job of controlling Janelson Figueroa from the outside of this fight, counter punching him, using his defense, using his feet to control the center of the ring, his smarts to control the tempo of the fight. Bunch really showed me a lot in this fight. He really impressed me. This is my first impression of him. I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know anything about his box rec too much other than what I was told on the commentary. I didn't even look at his box rec before the fight happened. It wasn't until after the fight when I looked at his box rec that it came to my surprise that Shinard has been put in tough. He's been put in tough, and in his career, right, when you get a guy like him who's not fought on TV and you put him on TV for the first time. You just don't know how guys are gonna fight under the lights on TV for the first time, and factor in he's fighting a guy who's a pretty highly touted welterweight prospect in Figueroa. Figueroa is not only a highly touted prospect, but Figueroa is also a ranked prospect. Figueroa is ranked number 15 in the WBO, so he's not fighting a scrub in his television debut, and he performed exceptionally well. I scored this fight 97-93. I thought. For Shinard I thought Shinard won this fight pretty soundly and pretty clearly. But of course, you can't even watch a ShoBox card. It's getting ridiculous. Like, I don't get mad at boxing no more when it comes to these corrupt scorecards, when it comes to corruption, period. Because after what I was exposed to in Vegas, and I wasn't exposed to a whole lot. Like, being honest, I wasn't exposed to a whole lot. Just seeing how fighters get treated and how the game of boxing can be, the sport of boxing is manipulated. I don't get upset at corruption anymore. I kind of treat boxing as a toxic wife, for anybody out there who's married who has a toxic wife. I treat it as a toxic wife. I know she has problems. I know she's got her own set of faults, and there's definitely some things I wish I could change. But I'm in this relationship, and if I want any sort of sanity, any chance at sanity, clarity, and just living a good life, I have to accept her for how she is, and that's kind of how I treat bad scorecards and corruption in boxing. Shinard was robbed of his chance to advance his career. From this point forward, he was robbed of a very quality win on his resume. He was robbed of taking the O of a highly touted welterweight prospect, and people who watch this fight know that Shinard is crazy. So. When I had a chance to take a quick synopsis of his box rec, he's been in some good fights. He fought a couple names that I'm familiar with. When Shinard third professional fight, he fought Paul Kroll, and Paul Kroll is another prospect in the welterweight division from Philadelphia who a lot of people think is one of the best welterweights out there, but he's not at that world level yet, so people haven't really taken notice of him yet. But his name is known in boxing circles. So Paul Crow, but to fight a guy like that, he lost to him. That was the only loss of his career, to Paul Crow. But that was a fight early, when I believe it was a 4 or 6 rounder. Who's to say that Shinard Bunch doesn't mature and give him a better fight? He fought him. He fought Dennis Okoth, who I've seen fight. Dennis Okoth is a journeyman fighter. He was 4-2-1 when Shinard Bunch fought him. He had never been stopped. He was the first guy to stop Dennis Okoth, and then he was using it as an opponent. Elvis Rodriguez stopped him on ESPN later on, right after that. So he fought him. He fought Ariel Vasquez, knocked him out. Ariel Vasquez is another guy that has been used for tons of welterweights as a journeyman. My good buddy Adrian Granados fought him a couple years ago. He fought Cameron Creel. Cameron Creel's a guy that, in the past has scored upsets over the likes of guys like Maurice Lee. And he's been in the ring with a lot of people. He beat Maurice Lee. He beat Diego Vicente Perez. He's fought a lot of experienced welterweight journeyman, and he fought Paul Crow. So Shinard Bunch, even though he's 22 years old, he's been getting quality experience in the professional ranks, and he was very well prepared in this fight against Janelson Figueroa, and it showed. It showed. I mean, the boxing skills, the jab, the command of the ring generalship, it was great. And there were pockets of this fight where there are periods of this fight where Figueroa asked some questions of Shinard Bunch. Figueroa would press him. Figueroa would have his fair share of successes, and it looked like at times that Shinard Bunch was getting tired. But Shinard Bunch in the back half of this fight showed that he had enough left in the tank to not just hit Janelson Figueroa, but to hit him and get his respect. So it was just a brilliant showing of boxing skills, power punching, ring generalship, and consistency. He fought a consistent fight and was not rewarded for it. And people ask me a lot, BT, why did you almost leave the sport of boxing? Why did you almost consider leaving YouTube for good? Now, I don't get mad anymore. I've accepted boxing for how it is. But fights like this are fights. Things like this are the reasons why I used to get upset. Because I know in a very intimate way, and I've seen it. I've seen how fighters train in the gym. I've spent time. Recently I had a chance to see a couple of fighters. I spent time with them for a whole camp. And when you spend time with fighters for a whole camp and you see the highs and lows of everything they go through in a training camp, it gives you a much greater perspective and a deeper appreciation for what they do. So when you get a fighter like Shinard Bunch, who comes in as the B-side, who's gone through the ringer in his career, he's fought tough journeymen. He fought Paul Crow in his 4th fight. He's been in there with some good guys. They bring him in to fight Figueroa, who's a ranked fighter. He's a young fighter, but he's a ranked fighter, a good fighter. And he boxes the shit out of him, boxes his ears off. And that win should be used to progress his career forward. And they decide not to give it to him, and they decide to score a draw. And they put his career on pause. They stagnate what should have been substantial progress for his career. That's the stuff that pisses me off about boxing, and that's what got me, used to get me to that very angry, sucking place. But I don't get upset no more. I've accepted for how it is. But in a way, this is good, because I'm glad Shinard Bunch got to fight on TV, because now I know who he is. Now I'll be watching his career with a lot of intrigue, and I'll be covering his career with a lot of intrigue, because he's a damn good fighter, and he showed it on this particular night. And I want to see more of him. He's 22 years old, but he fights with a maturity beyond the age of 22. So, fantastic fight for Shinard Bunch. It was a good fight from Figueroa as well. I think Figueroa definitely has to still improve, because I didn't see enough consistency from Figueroa in this fight. So maybe they could do a rematch. I think if Shinard Bunch comes the way he did in the first fight, he'll beat Figueroa. He should beat him if he fights that way again. But this was a piss poor robbery. This was way worse than Castaño Charlo, and I would even put it on the same tier as Chocolatito and Estrada, the rematch. It's on that same exact tier. It was that bad of a robbery. But I'm gonna leave it at that. Much respect to Shinard Bunch on a great fight. Leave your comments down below. If you saw the fight, give me your observations. Give me what you saw. I'd like to hear from you guys. Make sure you take the time to subscribe, because we're on the road to 40K, and this is one of the OG boxing channels out there. And, like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just Kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.